What if the speed of light was 30 miles an hour?
What if Earth had two suns?
Which cereal mascot would win in a fight?
What if everyone lived underground?
What if it
What
rained
if money grew on
What
trees?
if pigs could fly?
I don't know if that would actually happen.
It's much easier to store a unicycle than to store a horse.
Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben.
Guys, we got another spooky episode! 2 in a row!
Ooh. I'm not doing a ghost noise. I'm, like, going weirdly close to Santa Claus.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of the corporate America taking over the, trying to overshadow Halloween with Christmas stuff. I mean, I went into Lowe's, like, early October, and it was like all Christmas already. It's like, come on, guys, at least put out a pumpkin for once.
Yeah, sorry, I'm part of Big Christmas now, guys. I apologize. They paid me off.
Paid off.
Yep.
This episode is brought to you by Big Papa Christmas.
Yeah, Big Christmas. You mean Santa Claus? Yeah, that guy.
Oh man, but yeah, no, we got a second spooky episode in a row. We're doubling down on this holiday while neglecting most of the other holidays in the year. Picking the ones that count and make good hypotheticals, I guess. So what we're doing today is we are doing a Halloween movie grab bag, where each of us has picked a good old Halloween or spooky movie, and then do a hypothetical question based around that movie, and then answer it as best as we can with our, I don't know, armchair science skills that we've developed over the 180 episodes of this podcast. Ben, do you want to get us started with the movie that you picked?
Yeah, we decided to go sort of in order of least to most directly Halloween-y with our movies. And the movie I chose, just because it's near and dear to my heart, is Ghostbusters, which is not particularly Halloween-y, but does have ghosts, so it counts. And also just wonderful, and if you haven't seen it, you should definitely see it. Ghostbusters, 1984 comedy starring Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and Sigourney Weaver, Rick Moranis. A lot of really good cast. Very good. Basically, it is about a group of ghost capturers. I don't really know how to describe what exactly the Ghostbusters. They bust
Busters,
ghosts.
maybe?
They bust?
Yeah, they bust.
They bust ghosts.
And busted makes them
Ghost
feel
capturers.
good. Yeah. But they're sort of the whole idea was that they're like exterminators, but for ghosts. You know, they show up in their jumpsuits with their stuff, packs on their backs, and they go and catch your ghosts and get rid of them for you. And there's one particular part of Ghostbusters that I want to sort of look into from a more scientific perspective, I guess, which as sort of the climax of the movie involves a dark god taking form in our universe, and because of, I'll just say, a decision made, he takes the form of a marshmallow mascot, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, which is... Well, but giant, not like small. That's an important part. And it's
not
sort
the
of,
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man that you all know and love.
yes. Which, by the way, okay, this is one of those things where I definitely knew, but it's always surprised me when I like confirm it. Stay Puft is not an actual marshmallow brand. That was made up for the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no. But I think in my brain, like, I don't know brands of marshmallows, and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man looks enough like the Pillsbury Doughboy that I'm like, oh yeah, that's real. That's just a thing. Anyway, so I wanted to see what the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, as in Ghostbusters, was actually real. What would sort of, how would that go, I guess.
Well, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely, totally. And the first thing I really had to figure out was how big it actually is. Which I figured, obviously in the movie it is taller than some buildings, but not all buildings. I thought I was going to have to like find a reference building that it was next to in a shot and like count stories or something. But no, there's just an actual answer to this because when they filmed the movie, the way they did the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, it's a dude in a suit. And there's an interview with the special effects team where they just happen to say that the suit was 75 inches or 6 1/4 feet tall. And the scale of the city that they were running around in to film it was 1/18th scale, which means that canonically, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is exactly 112.5 feet tall. Which was a lot easier than I expected that to be, honestly.
I'm surprised there's not a wiki. Like, if you just like wiki the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, it doesn't just say like, oh yeah, he's exactly this tall because of they said so.
It probably does. It probably does on one like the weird fan wikis. On the regular Wikipedia, it doesn't. Although I guess this article was more about like the fictional mascot. I do like the first line of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, who does, yes, have his own Wikipedia page, article is, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, also known as Mr. Stay Puft, is a fictional character from the Ghostbusters franchise who sometimes appears as a giant lumbering and paranormal monster.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
That's just
Sometimes.
the thing he does.
Just the one time, really, I think. But anyway, so we have a height. I did need to get, in order to get like a better sense of scale here, an actual mass. And for that, I did grab a picture and do a bunch of, using my known height, do a bunch of scales of different parts of his body. That sounded weird. Anyway.
Were you pulling a tape measure across your own body to identify the width of the Marshmallow Man?
No,
is this where we're at?
So no, this was I opened a screenshot in Paint and used the like line drawing tool, but in a way that gave me a measurement to measure various bits of him on the picture using my known scale of 112.5 feet tall.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I basically turned it into like 2 cylinders for legs, 1 sphere that I said was the body and arms, and then it was actually a cylinder for the head because it's pretty wide, and then also he has a little jaunty sailor cap, so I did a little cylinder for that too because that felt wrong to not include, and I assumed it was also probably made of marshmallow. Basically, long story short, when you actually do all the math out, this is a roughly 1,600 ton Marshmallow Man, which is pretty hefty. It's pretty good.
Yeah, not small.
It's not small. If you wanted to compare it to like a bag of marshmallows, those are roughly 10 ounces. So it's the equivalent of about 5.2 million bags of marshmallows, which weirdly makes it seem bigger than when I think just 1,600 tons of marshmallows. I did want to figure out like what is the biggest marshmallow that man has created in real life, which I did find. It's actually not that impressive. It is only 205.25 pounds. It doesn't look very... I'm going to send you guys... I can't send you guys an image because my notes are on a different computer for reasons that I don't want to get into on this call.
Just technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties. Yeah, I'm recording on 2 machines right now, kind of. Anyway. Yeah, it's basically... It's just this big, roughly 200-pound marshmallow that this British school did back in 2019 in the shape of a bear's head. That this bear that's like the mascot for some charity, the BBC's Children in Need charity. What's his name? Pudsey the Bear, which is maybe the most British name I have ever heard.
Yeah, that's right on the island there.
Yeah, so that is like almost 16,000 times smaller than this Marshmallow Man. Which makes me think the fact that we haven't made a bigger marshmallow, just knowing how big of other foods that humans have made at various points. I don't think that the Marshmallow Man would be structurally sound, I will say. And he might just sort of solve his own problem that way anyway, by collapsing on himself.
Maybe he has bones.
You know what, Chris? I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that either.
I don't want to consider that possibility. I will also say that he does explode in the movie, and I do not see any bones.
That
just
is
a lot
true.
of melted marshmallow.
Of course not. They exploded.
You know what? I can't argue with that. I cannot argue with that. And if they exploded and like melted along with the marshmallow, they would also be white like marshmallow. So maybe there are bones in there, and we just never knew.
God, what a twist that would be! Like they suck up all the marshmallow, and then there's just
like,
a giant skeleton left over.
I really hate that idea, and I wish you hadn't brought it up. How would we kill the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? They use their fancy proton packs. We obviously don't have those. The most delicious answer would be flamethrowers, but those haven't been used in the military since 1978.
How are we going to defeat this Marshmallow Man? Well, flamethrowers would work, but we haven't used those in ages.
Well, I just think they're pretty hard to find. The answer is we'd probably like drone strike it, which isn't all that fun, but does get the job done. But it does lead to kind of a problem, which is that it doesn't just go away.
Yeah, the bones are left behind.
Yeah, the bones are left behind. No, but for real though, and this does happen in the movie. They don't like go into the details on how they solve this problem, but the entire area is then covered in marshmallow goo. 1,600 tons of marshmallow goo. That's a lot to deal with. There are some easy ways to, well, I say easy as things can be here. Ways to deal with it.
You could use flamethrowers, but we haven't used those since 78.
Well, no. So actually, there was an interview that someone did with multiple experts about how they would actually handle the situation in real life if it did occur. And really, your options are you freeze the marshmallow so you can chip it away very easily, but that's a lot more complicated than the easier one, which is spray it down with warm water, which melts down the sugar and just all wrenches down into the sewer. That kind of solves the problem, but it does lead you to another problem, which is you're adding like 5 billion calories of sugar into the sewer system, which is full of rats, assuming we're in, New York City or somewhere. And you're going to get a rat population boom that's then going to become a problem once there's no more melted marshmallow in the sewers. So I went down a different path, which is, hey, maybe we don't actually blow him up. He moves pretty slowly. We can probably trap him. And he is made of marshmallow. We could eat him. How fast can someone eat marshmallows? I did not test this myself before you ask. I mean, that was originally my plan, I guess. We could, I don't know how you actually kill a man made out of marshmallow, aside from blowing him up. And I'm trying to avoid that. So, yes, we eat him alive. I guess.
Come join us on our next Patreon episode where we make Ben eat as many marshmallows as he can in 5 minutes.
So I did not test this myself, but I did find the record for the most marshmallows eaten in 1 minute, which apparently is 25.
That's probably quite impressive in that I think if I tried to eat as many marshmallows as I could in a minute, I would not get close to that number. But what a sad record to have. Sorry if the 25 Marshmallow Man is is listening to this podcast. Is consuming this podcast through his ears.
His name is Sandy. That's the only name I have. That's the one that's on the world record website. No other name. Happened in 2013. So it's been around for a while. The video is there. It actually doesn't look that impressive, but also I know that I would die if I tried it. So I'm sure it's very impressive, Sandy. And so one marshmallow weighs around 7.2 grams. And really what it works out to is if this one guy ate full time continuously, which obviously is impossible, he'd have to, he would die at some point from eating too many marshmallows. It would take him 15 years and 236 days to eat the entire Marshmallow Man, which is not ideal. So instead of having one person eat the entire Marshmallow Man, I figured we would enlist some more people. And I figured the best way to do this would be to get competitive eaters. I do not know how many people who consider themselves to be competitive eaters there are in the world or United States or anything. I do know that Major League Eating, in their own words, ranks 50 league members on a regular basis. So I may not know how many we have, possible we could conscript, but I do know that we have 50 ready to go.
So there are somewhere between 50 and 300 million.
Right, yeah, somewhere in there. So if we average that, no. If we did get all of them going, full time, and I'm assuming that they could match this Sandy's 25 marshmallows per minute. These people who, are like Joey Chestnut or whatever and, do this literally for a living. We would get it done in under 4 months, which honestly I think is not that bad, all things considered. So I guess that's my answer. Is I would enlist Major League Eating to eat the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man if he was real.
How are you gonna?
That feels like a weird
trap him?
takeaway. I thought about that a little bit. Like, he does not move fast. Like, he's not even as fast as well, I feel like he moves roughly as fast as it looks like Godzilla does, but he's nowhere near as big as Godzilla is. So he's actually moving pretty slow, all things considered. I think you could just
Follow
trip
him
him
around.
Yeah, I don't know. His body's made out of marshmallow. It's not like he's not stone or anything. Like,
Just let
it's
him
not
walk
that
around
bad.
for 4 months, follow him around, and take bites out of him for 4
Yeah,
months.
just swing in, grab a bite, swing out.
Just melt his feet to the ground. Done.
That actually, honestly,
yes.
you could just turn a warm hose on him and melt away his legs. The rats can have a little bit of marshmallow as a treat.
I just imagine the climax of the movie, they break out, the Ghostbusters break out four warm hoses and start melting him, and some guy from the city sewers no, stop the rats. You can't. The ecological consequences.
One other thing that I actually did learn during my research when I thought I might have to go down this road, I was worried about, how there's that whole thing where eating burnt marshmallows is a carcinogen, gives you cancer. I was worried about that with regards to our elite eaters. Apparently that's not true.
Oh, thank God.
The whole thing with that is the reason that happens with browned meats and things is related to the fat and juices dripping down onto the flame when the meat is cooking. It doesn't have anything to do with starchy food. It's a fatty thing. So eat your burnt marshmallows. It's fine.
But not your burnt steaks? Oh, man.
I mean, you'll be fine. Who cares?
Yeah, I like the char on steaks. It's good.
Live a little bit.
Yeah. Is it living or surviving at that point?
Exactly. Speaking of living and surviving, Chris, what did you do?
So the movie that I covered was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which I guess technically wasn't originally a movie. It was based, or I guess the original is a short story by Washington Irving in 1820. And then they made it into a Disney movie in 1949. It was included in they called it The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. I guess it was a combination of Sleepy Hollow and some other story involving Mr. Toad. And then they re-released that in 1958 just called it The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. That was the Disney movie. And then in 1999, Tim Burton did another movie with Johnny Depp just called Sleepy Hollow. I'm gonna, for the most part, base my answer off of the short story and the Disney movie, mainly because the Tim Burton movie changes a lot of things. They make Ichabod a detective, a homicide detective, when that's nowhere close to the story. So
yeah, that was kind of a weird change. I overall thought that movie was pretty decent, but that was kind of a weird shift. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I'm just going to go over the general idea of the story. So, just briefly. So it starts with a schoolmaster named Ichabod Crane. He arrives at Sleepy Hollow, New York. And he very quickly becomes popular in the town. Especially with the ladies and stuff. So he would do chores and stuff, and then they would invite him for dinner, and he made a lot of friends. And eventually he meets a girl named Katrina Van Tassel, and he falls in love with her. And he tries to win her hand. But there's another guy in the town called Brom Bones. That's his name. And he also likes Katrina Van Tassel. So they end up competing with each other for Katrina Van Tassel's hand. And while Ichabod Crane is in Sleepy Hollow, Brom Bones and other people in the town start telling him spooky stories and stuff. And one of them is about the Headless Horseman. So the background of the Headless Horseman is that he's a ghost of a Hessian soldier who has been decapitated by an American cannonball during the American Revolutionary War, specifically during the Battle of White Plains on October 28th, 1776. I didn't know any of that.
Beheaded by cannonball is a pretty metal way to go.
It is, because cannonballs are made of metal.
Hey.
Hey.
So he's decapitated. He doesn't have a head, but instead he holds a jack-o'-lantern in place of his head. / he uses it as a weapon sometimes, I guess. And then he like rides around looking for his head, or looking for like a head to swap with. And then in the story, eventually Ichabod Crane and Brom Bones and all of them, they end up at an autumn harvest party, and as Ichabod Crane is going home from the party, he has to ride his horse through a bunch of woods. And in the woods, he encounters the Headless Horseman. And he ends up fleeing through the forest, and he reaches a bridge, and he needs to cross the bridge because the story says that the Headless Horseman cannot cross this bridge. So he goes across the bridge. He successfully makes it across the bridge. But then the Headless Horseman throws the jack-o'-lantern head at Ichabod Crane. And then the story kind of like cuts out. And then the next scene is the next morning. And they say Ichabod is gone and missing. And the only thing that's left is a smashed pumpkin on the ground. So no one knows what happened to Ichabod. It's implied that the Headless Horseman is actually Brom Bones in the story. They never actually say it outright. But after like Ichabod disappears, Brom Bones actually marries Katrina Van Tassel. So it's like implied that he dressed up to get rid of Ichabod Crane. Now, because we don't actually know what happened to Ichabod, and some say he died, some say he like survived and he just fled from Sleepy Hollow, I want to actually figure out what did happen, or like what possibly could have happened.
Ooh, a rare investigative question.
Yeah. So,
who are you, homicide detective Ichabod Crane? Anyway,
exactly. So the first question I had to ask was, would the Headless Horseman be able to throw the pumpkin far enough? Because he can't cross the bridge, according to the story. So that means he has to throw the pumpkin the same length of the bridge. Would he be strong enough? Now, technically, I guess he would be a ghost, if you want to believe that he was actually a ghost. But even if he was a ghost, he would be a Hessian soldier, so you'd have to like follow the rules of a Hessian soldier. Or you can kind of interpret that he was Brom Bones, and would Brom Bones be able to throw the pumpkin far enough?
Chris had a moment where he was like, do I have more data about how far ghosts can throw things, or do I have more data about how far Hessian soldiers can throw things?
Yeah. So, like I said, if we're going with the Hessian soldier thing, I didn't actually know what a Hessian soldier was, so I looked it up. And they are German soldiers who fought with the British during the Revolutionary War. So, like, at the time of the Revolutionary War, the American Revolutionary War, German wasn't a unified nation yet. And there were actually like hundreds of states organized under the Holy Roman Empire. And many of these states were economically supported by their armies. So basically, these Hessian soldiers were essentially like professional armies for hire. And then when war broke out, people would hire these professional armies from German states. And these basically like supported them economically. But because they're like such professional armies, they were trained annually. They served for life. They're very skilled fighters. They were probably in peak physical condition. So I kind of just assumed that they are peak physical condition, or that the Headless Horseman is, I guess. If you want to look at Brom Bones and assume that it was him instead, in the story he is depicted as like a very fit guy. He's basically like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. He's just like peak physical condition. So
another competitive eater. Bringing it back to the competitive eaters with his dozens of eggs.
Exactly. I don't know.
How many Gastons would you need to eat the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
Oh, like 2.
And that's just to speed it up.
Yeah. You need 2 so they compete with each other.
Exactly. Or you could just get Brom Bones.
That's true. One Gaston, one Brom Bones, and then they can compete.
Yes. So, if we're saying that Headless Horseman has peak physical condition, how far can a human throw a pumpkin? So a carving pumpkin can weigh around 16 pounds. That's like before carving the pumpkin, so like just a full pumpkin. Conveniently, a standard men's shot put ball or shot, are they? I guess they're just called shots.
I think it's just called a shot. Yeah.
Yeah. A men's shot weighs 16 pounds, so that's the same weight as a pumpkin. And the world record for men's shot put is 76 feet and 8 inches. So it's pretty far. I'm going to say that our Headless Horseman can throw the pumpkin that far too. So is that far enough? We need to figure out how long the bridge is. Now, Sleepy Hollow is a real place in New York. The bridge, yeah. The bridge doesn't actually exist anymore. There is a Headless Horseman
Not since it got
bridge.
hit by that pumpkin.
No. Well, according to the story, he threw it past the bridge, so it didn't hit the bridge. But there is a Headless Horseman bridge that exists. It's in the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, but there's a sign to clarify that it's not the original bridge. But it does span the same stream, and it's like roughly in the same spot as the story. Not exactly, but it's close enough, I would think. I'm going to use this bridge as our representative bridge. So I couldn't actually find official numbers for how long this bridge is, but I just opened up Google Maps and user measure tool in Google Maps, and it is roughly 100 feet long. So,
Ooh.
yes, that means that we cannot throw the pumpkin far enough. But that was with a 16-pound pumpkin that was uncarved. Our pumpkin is carved because it's a jack-o'-lantern head, so it's hollow. I don't know exactly how much weight that takes out of it, but I'm just going to say it roughly weighs 10 pounds because that is roughly the weight of a human head, and that seems fitting. So, with the lighter pumpkin, that means you can throw it farther. Also, shot put is thrown from a stationary position, but the Headless Horseman is on a horse. So, if he throws the pumpkin with a galloping velocity, horses can gallop up around like 25 to 30 miles per hour. So if he does that, I think he can easily throw the pumpkin across the bridge, across the 100-foot long bridge. So he can get the pumpkin over there without crossing the bridge. But would it actually kill Ichabod Crane? I didn't do too much like investigative science stuff, but I did find a news article from 2011 from Pittsburgh. Apparently, a 64-year-old man named Daniel Wagner got hit by a pumpkin that was thrown from a car. It hit his head. And he basically just walked away with a bruised head, and they said a possible concussion. They didn't actually say if he had a concussion, but they did say he had no permanent brain injuries. So he certainly didn't die from the pumpkin. And that pumpkin was uncarved. It was just a full pumpkin. So based on this, I'm going to say that even if the Headless Horseman was able to throw the pumpkin, it wouldn't kill Ichabod Crane. Ichabod probably just got hit by the pumpkin and then ran away and got spooked. And that is my conclusion as homicide detective. There was no homicide.
I really enjoy the mental image of getting the galloping speed to aid the throw, but you have to go all the way up to the edge of a bridge you can't cross.
Yeah.
So does the horse just like hit an invisible wall?
I guess I didn't think that part through. I don't know. I think you can do it.
Yeah, there's a couple factors going for you. And also, it comes up weirdly often in this show about, could you throw this thing of this weight this far? And there's no good answer. It's so complicated.
Yeah, unless you have like an example that's close. But
yeah, there's not even physics calculations to do on it that are reasonable. It's just dumb. It's dumb, and it makes this podcast way harder. You jerk physics math.
I just need to get a pumpkin and throw it across a bridge and see if I can.
Yeah, right? It should be so easy. It should be like 10 minutes. But no.
Anyway, Marcus.
Wind speeds and weight and drag. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
What movie did you do, Marcus?
So I decided to go with a recent hit to the box office, Hocus Pocus 2. and kind of also Hocus Pocus 1. It's kind of applicable to both. So Hocus Pocus is a movie about a coven of 3 sister witches who are kind of unwittingly, accidentally resurrected by an unsuspecting teen around Halloween night after being, hanged centuries earlier for their, being witches in Salem. Their primary goal is to murder some children and steal their life force to make themselves younger again before the sun rises. This is effectively the plot for both movies. They kind of just ran it back, just like 20, 30 years later, whatever, with some callbacks. But the plot is effectively the same. So I thought for a minute about doing some resurrecting stuff and seeing how that might work out. But when it ended up going a different direction, so the 3 witches, the Sanderson sisters, when they make their appearance, it is a comedy, lighthearted Halloween movie. So when they go get their broomsticks, they're no longer in, 16th, 17th century Salem, whatever it is. So they use what's at hand and use that as replacements for their broomsticks. Winnie the main witch always does use a classic broomstick, but then her sisters in the first movie go for a mop and a vacuum cleaner. In the second, Winnie maintains her classic broomstick again, but her sisters accompany her with, one of them has a Swiffer and one of them has a pair of Roombas that they use to fly around the town. So the question I decided to go with was, what if any cleaning implement could be a flying broomstick? You don't gotta be a witch, just any broom or mop or whatever can be a broomstick for anybody. So kind of the first thing, I got into the taxonomy of what qualifies as a cleaning implement, which is a bit tricky because lots of different things clean things, but don't really fit in the spirit of it. Rather than give a full definition, I did it mostly by what felt right to me to count something. So to give everyone kind of a frame of reference where my head's at, here are some things that I counted and some things I didn't count. I did count anything from the movies is good, of course. Like a steamer, a floor buffer. I was going to go down with a power washer, but realized the host would still need to be connected, which kind of limits the applications of a power washer. Things I didn't count, like a washing machine, no good. You can't, that's not really a handheld cleaning tool. Anything that's like similar to brooms but isn't for cleaning, like gardening tools, like a rake or like a lawnmower. I waffled really hard on Zamboni because I wanted to say the word Zamboni a bunch, but instead just put it here as a didn't count. And so I got to say Zamboni 3 times, I think, so far. Zamboni, number 4, done. So really, any cleaning implement that would make sense to be a broomstick, somewhere basically between broomstick and Roomba is the range.
Napkin. What about a napkin?
No, napkins, it's like too disposable. Okay. Also, it'd be a little bit small to ride on. But where I ended up going with it, so the first thing I looked at was, all right, so people have this nice convenient mode of flying transport, like personal transportation, and you can bring like some stuff with you, but not like a huge amount. It doesn't really unlock too many doors that like cars don't already. So I was looking at kind of jobs that would be improved by having this convenient flying access. And where I ended up was mail delivery. I think if you take a vacuum cleaner, the bag part could be like an old school vacuum, could be roughly the size. It's about roughly the size of a mail bag. So you basically fill up that vacuum cleaner with letters. Bonus points if you can make the blow function like shoot out the right letters, but you could also just modify it so you can open it up and take them out. And you use this vacuum cleaner full of letters to deliver mail. I tried to find some data on how much time is spent for like the average mail carrier if they're constantly getting in and out of their truck to deliver mail to like the individual mailboxes. Because like the main benefit of having the broomstick would be that you're on a more mobile platform that could like get to the mailboxes easier without like disengaging. And it turns out it really couldn't find good numbers for it just because it varies a lot based on location. Like suburbs and cities and rural areas are set up very differently for mail delivery. like suburbs, like the mailboxes are all like right on the street, which are easily accessed. But like in a city, there'll be like, a whole building worth of letters at one spot gets dropped off. And then rural could be like, you're walking up someone's like half-mile driveway. But I did read that the mail carriers, they're actually required to have their vehicle completely turned off whenever they exit it, even if it's just like a couple steps to a mailbox. Like they can't leave it idling. Not for like any, like the reason is that they have really clunky mail vehicles. Like the mail vehicles that they use, these trucks, are not the best of trucks in general. And they actually have a tendency to vibrate themselves back into gear and run off.
Amazing.
So like you can actually it's like a like fireable offense to leave your truck like idling at all. And there's actually a bunch of videos of just mail trucks just like literally just like going off on their own after being parked for like a second. So for a lot of routes, what they do like in suburban areas and like city-ish areas is they'll just park somewhere local and then do like a section of walking. But it can be something of like the order of like 10 miles a day of walking or something too. Like they walk a lot.
They can't just get new trucks?
No, that's too expensive. That's no good. Well, they wouldn't need their trucks now anyway with the vacuum broom. So without having some more numbers, it's tricky to get much deeper into it on efficiency side. But I just love the idea of a mailman flying on a magic vacuum cleaner blowing out letters. So I kind of moved on from there. And so ditching the mail concept a little bit, I was trying to brainstorm with some of the quirkier cleaning implements. Like I mentioned, like the power washer before I wanted to do something with. But I think Hocus Pocus 2 already nailed the best cleaning implement with the Roomba. So in the movie, the sister Mary, she flies around by standing on two of the Roombas, like balancing on there, which is great, and I like that. But they missed I think they missed the mark by just a little bit, because there's something that's even better than that, and that's cats. I cannot express my disappointment when I purchased a Roomba for myself and then found out that my cat is not one of those cats who happens to like to sit on it and ride it around while it's in operation. And it's just really sad. I mean, I was also kind of disappointed about the story of like, the magic of like, oh, this, I'll never have to vacuum again because I have this Roomba. Also doesn't really quite work out for some reason, but that's besides the point. Plus, given that cats are like witch adjacent, I think that a cat could fly with the magic Roomba. If a cat goes on a Roomba, the cat can fly because they are a bit witchy in and of themselves. But of course, as I mentioned, only certain cats will even try. So I had to kind of estimate what percentage of cats would use a Roomba. Very scientifically, the way I did this is I compared the number of Google results for cat video against cat on a Roomba. So there are 4.7 billion search results on Google for just cat video, and 3.52 million results for cat on a Roomba. So this implies scientifically data-driven analysis that 1 in every 1,335 cats is inclined to ride on a Roomba. So, what does that? How does that impact things? What is this going to look like on a larger scale? So I ended up actually looking at wild house cats in America, to a reason I'll get to in a second. But there are 70 million wild cats in America, which is kind of a crazy number. That's like one cat, there's one wild cat for every 5 people in America. It's a lot of them. And those wild house cats as a whole, they kill 1.3 to 4 billion with a B, wild birds each year. So that number, in fairness, counts both wild and non-wild cats, like your outdoor cat that will go out and kill birds is counted in that statistic. But it also, the data shows that the majority, 70% of those bird murders are by the wild house cats. So let's say 2 billion birds are killed each year by wild house cats. If you arm those cats with Roombas, is that going to cause problems? So splitting that 2 billion bird murders across 70 million wild cats and across a year, it means that each cat is killing a bird once about every 13 days. So once every 2 weeks, the wildcat manages to get a bird. They get other stuff like it's like 2 billion birds and then like 11 to 20 billion like rodents and other things that they hunt. So really, we could actually combine, Ben, and I could fix your mouse problem. We could. we just need Roombas. So then the question is, does a Roomba actually help a cat at all in getting birds? And I think really it does, because cats are, they're quote-unquote stalk and ambush predators. So normally a cat will wait for a bird to land in some kind of vulnerable area and then either sneak up onto it or already be in wait, and then it just is able to pounce on it before the bird has a chance to get off the ground. Until now. So now it really opens up both like a lot more ambush possibilities and also chase capabilities. Like the flying Roomba was pretty fast in the movies. Like it's hitting like car speeds. Like they're going like probably 20 to 30 was my eyeball of how fast they're going, which is not too far off what these birds hit. So they could like chase them in the air, and then also they could like hover over and like pounce down on them from their flying Roombas. So with all that, again, very scientifically, I've estimated that a wildcat now, instead of once every 13 days, they'll be able to get a bird every other day. So putting all those numbers together, 70 million cats. 1 in every 1,300 of them will have access to a Roomba. That's 52,434 flying cats, wild flying cats. And then upping their efficiency in hunting, it's an additional 9 million successful birds hunted each year, which actually is kind of a small number, relatively speaking, to how many birds there are in the 2 billion birds a year. So, in the spirit of this podcast, I'm giving every wildcat a Roomba and rerunning the numbers. So, with 70 million flying cats, the predation on birds increases to 12.7 billion birds per year. So how does that affect the ecosystem? To put it into a bit of perspective, the current estimated bird population in the US is 7.2 billion birds. So, in conclusion, if you give them Roombas, cats will make birds extinct inside of 8 months.
That's pretty quick, all things considered.
Also, like, even without modifying that number, of the 7 billion birds, wild cats kill 2 billion of them? That's crazy. Like, I know, like, yes, that's how, like, if you look at a food chain, like, cat eat bird, cat eat mouse, like, it's right there in, in, like, second grade education, but I kind of felt that, like, was the minority of how birds die, but no, they get freaking cats, man. There's a lot of them, and they get them. So
mice would probably be better off. They're going for the birds instead.
Yeah, I guess there would be a reduction in mouse hunting if they're able to get all these birds. Those birds will not be prepared. I cannot imagine a bird dealing with prey from above too often. And there you have it. With that destruction of the ecosystem and our competitive eating endeavors, I think it's time to move on to our Would You Rather question of the episode. Chris, are you ready for a Would You Rather question?
I am ready.
Would you rather go trick-or-treating with a werewolf or a zombie?
Ooh. Werewolf or a zombie? So trick-or-treating starts kind of around like 6-ish, right? I'm trying to think about...
like dusky.
Is the transformation of the werewolf going to happen during the trick-or-treating? Or is it just going to be a werewolf?
I think like it'll be something like you don't check sunset when sunset is and you're out trick-or-treating with the werewolf.
Do you know ahead of time that this is a werewolf, that this is going to happen?
Yeah, let's say yes.
Yes, because otherwise the question was, would you rather trick-or-treat with a zombie or just your friend who you don't know that much about, actually?
Yeah. Okay. I feel like so are the werewolf/zombie gonna be like aggressive and attacking other people?
Yeah, it's kind of in their nature.
Okay. But they have to be with you for the trick-or-treating. I feel like a zombie is easier to restrain.
Yeah, do we want to like Disney-fy this werewolf and zombies so they're not just like trying to murder you, in which case it's do you want to fight a werewolf or a zombie?
That's probably a good idea, yeah.
Okay.
But I feel like there needs to be some danger.
Yeah, otherwise you're just trick-or-treating like normal. I mean...
Well, like, otherwise the answer is you take the werewolf because the zombie's going to be slower.
Yeah.
So what's the line we ride here to...
I mean, like the points I'd like, I'm hoping we can wave off the bigger survival questions to hit points like zombie probably walks slower than the werewolf's going to slow down your route.
But is that the only factor? Like, what other factors are there to consider?
That's what I was just trying to.
Here's one. You go up with your werewolf friend to a house, and they're like, oh, hi you two. Here's a chocolate bar for each of you, and you go, oh, you can't eat that. I'll have to take both those chocolates.
I feel like the zombie is not going to have an urge to eat any candy.
Yeah, because they just want to eat brains. So you get all the zombies' candy?
Are there any candies?
You're slower, but they're slower, but you get all of the zombies' candy.
You get double the candy at each house.
Are there any candies that look like brains that might confuse them?
Not that many.
Yeah,
really.
You think?
I'm trying to think about like a Snickers bar kind of has that like brainy texture. Yeah,
those circus peanuts, maybe.
Do people give those out? That might be brain. Who knows? What even are those?
Well, I mean, maybe that's a little bit of the danger is that you cannot satiate the zombie in any way with candy. The werewolf non-chocolate candies you could give to the werewolf to kind of be like, hey, you good, bud? Here's some treats.
Just chowing on Laffy Taffy and Smarties.
And that's how you prevent them from attacking.
Plus, I feel like some houses in the neighborhood might have like dog treats out for like people trick-or-treating with their dogs.
Yeah.
I don't remember ever specifically seeing it, but I feel like if I had a dog, I might do that.
I love the idea they'll put out like a bowl of water for dogs to refresh themselves with, and your werewolf friend just like hops down on their hands and knees and like goes at it. Just like,
finally.
Yeah, because up until then, people are just going to assume it's a kid dressed up as a werewolf.
Right.
But then they'll reveal...
Or a dog.
Or a dog.
Or
yeah.
you're very...
A very well-trained
large
dog.
and mean-looking dog.
Also, I think the zombie is probably going to smell pretty bad.
That is true. That's a really good point. You can bathe a werewolf. You can't bathe... Well, I guess technically you can bathe a zombie. You might just, like, lose some of it in the process.
Yeah, like... And plus, you do have the time of normalness in the beginning. Like, half your trick-or-treat route is going to be with a person with the werewolf one. It's going to get hectic. It's going to be hectic. Like, the zombie is just like a slow burn. Like, you're going to get the double candy payout, but you're going to slow down your routes. You're going to increase your candy by a bit. Once you get to nighttime with the werewolf, maybe you, like, pick up the pace. Like, you have the normal, and then you pick up the pace, and you get all the chocolates.
Would you try to hide the transformation? Would you, like, go into the forest or something and have him transform?
On Halloween night, I mean, the villains in all these Halloween movies never bother on Halloween night, and people are like, "Whoa, cool costume, man!" And then it's fine.
Yeah, but if they see the transformation, it's kind of hard to hide.
Yeah, but even then, you think someone honestly, if I saw someone transform into werewolf on Halloween night, I'd be like, "Damn, they put a lot of effort into Halloween this year."
Okay, I would not think that.
That's crazy.
Do you make the werewolf put on a costume before they transform? You have to, right?
Oh yeah, or else they don't get candy.
Yeah.
What costume? Like, can you do like
anything? They're a person.
Well,
they can wear whatever
like,
costume they want.
Like,
they could be the
I feel like what's your best, like, in case you lose track of time and they start to transform people around? Do you do like the bed sheet with holes cut in it ghost costume? Sort of like have some coverage,
like a full, just hide them, like give them the full coverage.
Maybe put them in like a sumo suit, like the blow up sumo suits. That could work.
Oh, the ones that like the ones where it's like writing, like when you're like fake writing something, like it's like from the waist down and inflatable.
Yes, exactly, just like that. Yeah.
Oh no, that would be a problem for if they're four leg. That they would have a tough time getting out of that one.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless that's the plan all along. You get them trapped in there, and then they transform to go four-legged. They won't be able to navigate out of that costume. You just ditch them.
What I'm seeing is, when you put like there's like a cone on a dog, and they try to like back out of it. I'm just seeing that, but it's a werewolf like shuffling out of like a little like cowboy on a horse costume.
Yes.
Okay, now I think I'm team werewolf just for that image. This is now a selling point.
And then the zombie would just be not dressed up at all.
Yeah, zombie would just be you put him in like a lab coat or something, and just tear that up a little bit. You're good.
Yeah, I feel like I'm leaning team werewolf just because I think that the day with the zombie is just gonna be like continuously slow burn, suckish awkward.
I mean,
Right,
it'll
'cause,
just
like-
be normal trick or treating, just a little slower.
But you can't like talk to a zombie. You can talk to a werewolf for half the time.
Yeah, and also like like they're just gonna be like they're just not gonna be good company, and then it's gonna be like you say trick or treat, and the zombie's like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
how many like half-assed like haha do you need to get from people like opening the door to be like, man, this is just not what I want today to be.
Well, how much? So, do you think you get more candy with the zombie? Like, if you only cared about candy?
It's tough because you get all the candy, but at a slow, like, you have less total candy, but you get all of it. Versus, if you just say, hey, I get all the chocolate from the werewolf, but we hit more houses. Like, I think it probably nets out pretty close. A high percentage of Halloween treats are chocolate based.
I will say that the chocolate is like what I personally care more about in this situation. You also, sometimes there are people who will like, oh, that's a great costume. Here, take an extra one. And I think you're going to get more of those from the werewolf post-transformation than you will from the zombie. So you might score some extra.
Assuming you don't ditch your werewolf companion.
Well, yeah, also that.
It's going to be a really weird costume if they can't get out of that inflatable costume.
Oh, a werewolf riding a horse. I don't think I've seen that one before.
A werewolf stuck in a horse costume. What?
What if, okay, here's a question. It just popped into my head. What if for the zombie, no, this is bad, never mind. I was gonna say, you could do one of those like 2-person horse costumes, but you're just walking like really awkwardly slowly, and they still smell.
Yeah,
But
they're still gonna
it's just like you smell. So yeah, that one's a bad idea. Never mind.
Yeah, I was leaning towards zombie before, but I think you've talked me into werewolf.
Yeah, I feel pretty comfortably werewolf.
I too concur. We're gonna go for a perfect trifecta for the werewolf here. If you want to go trick-or-treating with a werewolf, you can go to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/absurdhypotheticals, and become a patron. And that will in no way help you go trick-or-treating with a werewolf, but I had to plug it anyway.
How are you going to connect this?
But what you actually get for just a singular dollar or more, if you'd like to help support the show even more than that singular dollar per month, is you get access to all our bonus content that we create each month exclusively for our patrons, our good hypothetical pals. So you can go and do that. If you want to support the show in other ways, send us some questions. We could definitely use more questions. We're 182 episodes in, and boy, are our brains tired. Or boy, I think we've noodled around like our patterns of hypothetical questions, like the ones that we would create, except for Ben, who hasn't made one yet.
I made one. It finally happened. Remember? I don't remember what it was,
Yeah.
but I did.
We need you, the listener, to pick up on Ben's slack and shoot us some questions. Best way to do that, absurdhypotheticals@gmail.com. If you're on YouTube, you can just throw that right in the comments section. And if you're enjoying the show, of course, leave a review. We'd love to see them. They help the show grow. They help people find the show. It does lots of it does all the good back end internet things for it. So that is another way that you can help. But once you've done all those, you are welcome to join us for next episode, where we answer the following question: what if everyone lived on islands?